There is a country on this planet where you can earn a decent salary and still not afford rent. Where the world's most spectacular natural landscape sits within driving distance of some of its most severe human poverty. Where a man can spend his entire life fishing the same river his grandfather fished. And that river is the Amazon. That country is Brazil. And if you think you already know what life there looks like, I want to spend the next 20 minutes changing your mind. Because the Brazil most of the world has seen, the carnival, the football, the beaches of Copacabana, is real. But it is the surface of something far deeper, far stranger, and far more extraordinary than any postcard has ever managed to capture. Today, we go inside. Not inside the country as a tourist. Inside the daily life of the people who were born there, who raised children there, who built businesses and buried parents and navigated the extraordinary, contradictory, occasionally infuriating, occasionally transcendent reality of being Brazilian. By the end of this video, you are going to see Brazil the way the people who actually live in it see it, which is to say, completely differently from how you see it right now. Let us begin. Before we can understand life in Brazil, we need to understand what Brazil actually is. Brazil covers 8.5 million square kilometers, larger than the continental United States. It shares a land border with every single country in South America, except two. If you drove from its northern tip to its southern border at highway speed without stopping, that drive would take you more than 70 hours. It contains the world's largest tropical rainforest, the world's largest tropical wetland, vast agricultural plains that produce enough food to supply a significant portion of the entire planet, more species of birds, insects, fish and plants than almost anywhere else on Earth combined. And yet, talking about life in Brazil is a bit like talking about life in Europe. There is no single answer. Here is the central fact of life in this country, the one that shapes everything else. Brazil's GDP places it consistently among the top 10 economies in the world. And Brazil also has one of the highest inequality indices on the planet. The richest 1% of Brazilians control more wealth than the bottom 50% combined. This is not a footnote. This is the architecture of daily life here. It determines where you can afford to live, which schools your children attend, whether you travel through a city or commute through it. It determines, in the quiet and relentless mathematics of Brazilian social reality, whether you are considered in or out. We are going to spend the rest of this video asking why that is. It is 4 in the morning in the state of Amazonas. In most of the developed world, 4 in the morning belongs to insomniacs and night shift workers. In the Amazon, it is the beginning of the working day. Manaus is a fully modern city, and it is surrounded on every side, absolutely and without exception, by one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in the history of this planet. Let me take you somewhere else now. From the green, river-scented world of the Amazon, I want to take you east, to the coast, to the state of Bahia, to a city called Salvador. And I want to tell you something about it that I think will reframe the way you understand this entire country. Salvador de Bahia was founded in 1549, Brazil's first colonial capital, and it was, for over 2 centuries, the primary destination port of the transatlantic slave trade in the Americas. More enslaved Africans were transported to Brazil than to any other country in the Western Hemisphere. The scholarly consensus places the number at between 4 and 5 million people, taken from Nigeria, from Benin, from Angola, from Senegal, from the Kingdom of Dahomey and the Yoruba Empire. Transported across an ocean, to a country where they were to be held as property. I am telling you this not because it is comfortable to hear. I am telling you this because you cannot understand Salvador and you cannot understand Brazil without it. Because those people did not simply suffer and disappear from the historical record. They transformed the country that had enslaved them. Their languages folded into Portuguese and created something new. Their food, the palm oil, the black-eyed peas, the techniques of slow cooking and deep seasoning, became the cuisine of the entire Northeast. Their spiritual traditions survived 2 centuries of prohibition and forced conversion and emerged not diminished, but stronger, more complex, more deeply rooted. Salvador today is a city where over 70% of the population identifies as black or mixed race. Its food, its music, its spiritual life, its civic identity, all of it is inseparably, irreversibly African. And the extraordinary thing is this: the people of Salvador know it. They celebrate it. They have built an entire sense of who they are around the refusal to forget what was done to them, and what, in spite of all of it, they built. Walking through the Pelourinho district on any morning, you can hear drums from 3 different directions. You can smell dende oil from a kitchen window where someone is frying acarajé, black-eyed pea fritters that are simultaneously street food, and, in the Candomblé faith, a sacred offering to Iansá, the Oryxa of storms and transition. You can watch a capoeira circle forming spontaneously in a public square, the martial art that enslaved Africans disguised as dance so they could practice combat without their captors recognizing what they were watching. These things are not performed for tourists. They happen because they are alive. Because the culture that was supposed to be erased refused, generation after generation, to be erased. That is what life in Salvador feels like. Like living inside a very long act of defiance that has, over centuries, become indistinguishable from joy. Now I want to take you somewhere that challenges something most of us carry without examining it too closely. The assumption that poverty means absence. That a community without resources is a community without culture, without structure, without depth. The favelas of Rio de Janeiro are home to approximately 1.5 million people, roughly a quarter of the city's total population. They began growing in the late 19th century, when freed enslaved Brazilians and rural migrants arrived in Rio with nothing except the determination to stay. They climbed the hills, the morros, that no one else wanted, and they built, without architects, without planning permission, without electricity or running water or any of the infrastructure a city government provides when it decides a neighborhood is worth providing things to. A favela is a neighborhood. It has butchers and bakeries and beauty salons and hardware stores and churches of at least 3 denominations and community radio stations. It has streets walked by the same families for 4 and 5 generations. It has a social fabric so dense, so finely woven, that sociologists from Europe and North America come specifically to study it, because nothing in their theoretical frameworks quite accounts for how it functions. Does that mean life in a favela is easy? No, I will not tell you that. The inequality is real and it is structural, and it shows up in grinding daily ways, in which neighborhoods receive reliable garbage collection and which do not, in which children have access to teachers who stay, in the particular exhaustion of spending 3 hours a day on public transit to reach a job that is 40 minutes away by car, if you had a car. But here is what the statistics do not capture. A woman raising 3 children in a 2-room house on a favela hillside in Rio often has something people in far more comfortable circumstances do not have. Real community. The kind where your neighbor has a key to your door, where someone collects your children from school if you are running late, without being asked, because that is simply what people do. Where a network of mutual aid exists, not because a non-profit designed it, but because people who have very little understand, at a cellular level, that sharing is survival. That is not a romantic gloss on poverty. That is an observation about what human beings build when systems fail them. And in Brazil, they have been building it for a very long time. São Paulo is home to over 20 million people in its metropolitan area, the largest city in the southern hemisphere and one of the 10 largest urban agglomerations on Earth. It produces nearly 12% of Brazil's entire GDP. São Paulo alone, if it were a sovereign nation, would have a larger economy than the majority of countries in the world. Its restaurant scene is considered by serious food writers to be among the top 5 globally, a direct reflection of the immigrant communities that built this city across the 20th century. Italians, Japanese, Lebanese, Germans, Koreans, Spanish, all arrived in successive waves, brought their food with them, and never entirely let go of it. The Japanese community in São Paulo is the largest Japanese diaspora outside Japan. São Paulo is not a Brazilian city with international influence. It is an international city that happens to be in Brazil. Ask a Paulistano what they hate about their city, and they will say one word without pausing. O transito. The traffic. São Paulo's traffic is so legendary, it has its own mythology. The city's helicopter fleet is one of the largest of any non-governmental urban area on the planet. Because for those who can afford it, flying above the traffic is a more rational use of time than sitting in it. For the millions who cannot afford it, there is the metro, the buses, the commute. But they come anyway. Because São Paulo offers what most smaller Brazilian cities and towns have struggled consistently to provide: economic possibility. The chance, difficult, imperfect, sometimes crushing but real, of a different life. I want to talk about food, not because it offers light relief from heavier subjects, but because in Brazil, food is not light. Food is the entire story of the country, served on a single plate. The most common everyday meal in Brazil: white rice, freshly cooked, never from yesterday. Black beans, dark, silky, slow-cooked for hours with bay leaf and garlic. Farofa, toasted manioc flour scattered over everything, dry and earthy and without true equivalent in any other food culture I'm aware of. Some form of protein, a vegetable. This meal, the prato feito, the ready plate, is eaten by Brazilians of every income level and every region. The ingredients vary. The quality varies enormously, but the structure is the same everywhere, and the structure is a map of history. The rice is Portuguese, the beans are African, the varieties, the techniques, the long, slow cooking, the seasoning philosophy, tracing directly to West African culinary traditions brought across the Atlantic by enslaved people and preserved through every generation of Brazilian kitchens that followed. The manioc is indigenous, cultivated by the Tupi, the Guarani, and hundreds of other nations for thousands of years before a single European ship appeared on this coast. Every time a Brazilian sits down to eat, they are sitting, without knowing it, at the intersection of 3 continents and 5 centuries of history. Every plate is a negotiation, an ongoing, unfinished conversation between peoples who were brought together under terrible circumstances and who built, in the space between those circumstances, something nourishing and genuinely extraordinary. If you want to understand how Brazil processes difficulty, how it metabolizes suffering into something livable, you need to understand its spiritual life. Brazil is the largest Catholic country in the world by population. The Baroque churches of Ouro Preto, built with gold rush wealth in the 18th century, are among the most beautiful buildings in the Western Hemisphere. The church calendar still structures time in ways that reach into the most secular urban neighborhoods. But beneath and alongside Catholicism, running with complete unself-conscious comfort, is a river of African spiritual tradition that never allowed itself to be erased. Candomblé, born in Bahia from the Yoruba and Fon traditions of West Africa, has millions of adherents across the country. Its practice centers on the Orixás, spiritual forces governing natural phenomena; Iemanjá, queen of the sea; Ogum, spirit of iron; Oxum, of fresh water and love. They are not metaphors for their practitioners, they are presences. And alongside Candomblé, Umbanda, The uniquely Brazilian tradition synthesizing African religion, indigenous belief, Catholic iconography, and 19th century European Spiritism. And alongside Umbanda, Spiritism itself, which Brazil adopted with an intensity no other country has matched. Brazil has the largest Spiritist population of any nation on earth. They do not experience these things as contradictions. They experience them as different instruments in the same orchestra, each addressing a different dimension of what it means to be alive, to suffer, to need, to hope. Brazil does not worship in one way. Brazil worships with everything it has. Most people outside Brazil have an image of Carnival that is essentially spectacle, broadcast annually from the Sambódromo in Rio to an audience of 1 billion people. That image is real. It is also one of the most successful pieces of national self-mythology ever constructed. A surface designed, at least in part, for export. What is underneath Carnival is this: the drums that drive it, the surdo, the repique, the caixa, are the atabaque drums of candomblé. The rhythms were brought from West Africa in the bodies of enslaved people who had been stripped of everything except their memory of how to keep time. They were preserved through 2 centuries during which the practice of African religion in Brazil was illegal, kept alive in secret, in nighttime gatherings, in the quiet defiance of people who understood that rhythm is not just music, but identity. When those rhythms finally burst into the streets, openly, publicly, defiantly, they did not become entertainment. They became testimony. Salvador's Carnival does not happen inside a stadium designed for television cameras. It happens in the streets, where enormous sound trucks crawl at walking pace through crowds of hundreds of thousands, playing live music at a volume you feel physically in your chest. There is no audience in Salvador's Carnival. There are only participants, 2 million people moving together in rhythm for 5 consecutive days and nights. Historians and anthropologists describe this using terms like social cohesion and ritual solidarity. But if you ask the people in that street what they are doing, they will not use those words. They will say, "We are alive," and they will say it the way people say things they have needed to say for a very long time. I want to take you somewhere that almost no documentary about Brazil bothers to go. Not because it is inaccessible, but because it does not offer the images that travel well. The Sertão is the semi-arid interior of northeastern Brazil, covering nearly 1 million square kilometers. A landscape of pale earth and twisted thorny caatinga trees, a biome found nowhere else on Earth, adapted to a climate that oscillates between months of punishing drought and brief, intense periods of rain. 23 million people live here, more people than live in the entire country of Australia, concentrated in one of the most climatically hostile environments in the Western Hemisphere. The question outsiders always ask first is, why do they stay? They stay because the Sertão is theirs. Because their grandparents' grandparents cleared this land, named these hills, dug these wells. Because to leave is not simply to move to a new city, it is to amputate something that does not grow back. And they stay because, and this is something very hard to explain to someone who has never lived through sustained scarcity, there is a particular kind of life that only difficult places produce. A richness of human relationship. A humor that is bone dry and precise and absolutely undeceived by sentiment. A creativity born from the specific constraint of having to make what you need rather than buy what you want. The Cordel poets of the Sertão are proof of this, writing rhyming verse about political satire, local news, biblical stories, and the drought itself, printed on rough paper and hung at market fairs, narrating hardship with a dark wit that makes you simultaneously wince and laugh. The vaqueiros, the leather-suited cattle herders, produce handcrafted leatherwork of extraordinary complexity because what begins as functional necessity, applied across enough generations, eventually becomes art. And then there is forró, the accordion-driven music of the sertão, brought to the northeast by German immigrants and adopted with such completeness that within 2 generations it sounded like it had always been there. Its lyrics are about love and rain and leaving and coming home. In the sertão, those things are inseparable from each other. The sertão does not produce soft people. It produces people who understand, at a level that purely comfortable lives rarely reach, the difference between what is necessary and what is merely wanted. I want to be concrete because the people of this country deserve specificity rather than abstraction. What does it actually cost to live in Brazil? In São Paulo or Rio, a 1-bedroom apartment in a safe central neighborhood costs between 1,500 and 3,000 reais per month. Brazil's minimum wage sits at 1,412 reais. The minimum wage does not cover rent in a city that requires minimum wage workers to exist in it. This is not an abstraction. This is a daily mathematical fact that shapes every decision a working-class Brazilian makes. Where to live, what to eat, whether to take a second job. In Brazil, the second job is called a bico, and the majority of working Brazilians have one, quietly, in addition to their formal employment. And yet, alongside this, Brazil offers things that wealthy countries charge very dearly for. Healthcare is public and free. The Sistema Único de Saúde, the SUS, is imperfect and chronically underfunded. But it exists. A Brazilian without any money and without any insurance can walk into a public hospital and receive treatment. In many countries, that is not a thing at all. Public education through high school is free and universal. Access to universities, including some of the finest research institutions in Latin America, is determined primarily by exam performance, not ability to pay tuition. Brazil is a country actively fighting with itself. Fighting, publicly and imperfectly, and sometimes furiously, over what it owes its poorest citizens. And the people most directly affected by that fight, the favela resident, the sertanejo farmer, the ribeirinho fishing before dawn, are not passive observers of it. They are its primary participants. It is night on the Rio Negro. The river is black and enormous beneath a sky so dense with stars that the darkness between them feels almost incidental. On a wooden platform extending from a stilted house at the water's edge, a grandmother is telling her grandchildren the story of the boto, the pink river dolphin who transforms at night into a handsome young man, arriving at village dances elegantly dressed, dancing better than any man from the village has a right to dance. He always wears a hat to conceal the blowhole at the top of his head. The youngest child is wide-eyed. The teenager says something dry. The adults laugh. The river continues underneath all of it, as it has for 10,000 years of human life along its banks. Brazil has experienced, in its relatively short history as a nation, things that break civilizations. The largest forced migration in human history, 3 centuries of colonial extraction, 2 decades of military dictatorship, economic collapse, political corruption, at a scale that would have produced permanent civic despair in less stubborn societies. Here is what Brazil chose to keep through all of it: its music, its food, its laughter, its layered, borrowed, irreplaceable faith, its extraordinary tenderness toward children and elders, its insistence, irrational, beautiful, empirically unsupported by the circumstances, that life, properly attended to, is worth celebrating. What does it mean that a people deprived of almost everything chose, in that condition, to make music rather than silence? I have been thinking about that question for years. I still do not have a final answer. But I think it might be the most important question this country is asking, and the most important one it is answering every single day. We will see you on the next journey.